Like, don't you think I could be the greatest sports journalist ever?
Mm-hmm. Just give you a chance. You haven't been shown yet.
It is another week of the Lachelle Show, and I am Lachelle Smith. Now listen, we have a lot to talk about in this week's episode, and the number one thing on the list is Giannis Antetokounmpo, because it looks like he is about to finally be traded from the Milwaukee Bucks, and there's two teams in line to acquire him in this trade. He actually might be traded by the time you even listen to this episode, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to get into the WNBA and talk about the Indiana Fever's defense, and if Caitlin Clark is the problem, or is the team overall just a bad defensive team. We're going to touch on a little bit about the NBA draft and what teams are about to be doing tomorrow, especially with that number one overall pick. We have an update on the Brendan Sorsby case, which looks like the NCAA might have won. And we're going to touch on a little bit about the World Cup and Team USA. Let's get into this episode. The Dallas Mavericks do have a new head coach, and they have hired Dusty May, the Michigan Wolverines men's basketball head coach who just won the championship just a few months ago, is now heading to the Dallas Mavericks. Now, this shouldn't surprise a lot of people because I understand that Dusty May's name was in the circulation for the new North Carolina Tar Heels men's basketball job. And he said that he wasn't leaving Michigan for another college job and that he didn't want to really move around that much because his kid is a student at Michigan. But the key word that he said is that I wouldn't leave for another college job. People did thought it was a little bit weird that after Michigan won the championship that he still hadn't finalized and signed his new deal with Michigan, even though they did come to an agreement a few months prior. He said that it was more about crossing T's and dotting I's, but it looks like Dusty May was just waiting for the right NBA team to come calling, and it is the Dallas Mavericks. It is going to be exciting what they're going to be able to build. There's a lot of Michigan Wolverines in this draft class, and Dusty may be trying to recreate some type of magic that he had in Ann Arbor. While we're talking about a new coach in the NBA, we have to talk about a new player joining a new team. We are talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, I have been pretty adamant that I no longer wanted to talk about Giannis leaving Milwaukee until he was actually going to leave Milwaukee. This has been a constant song and dance for a really long time. I think anyone who has monitored this situation understood that Giannis knows he cannot win anymore with Milwaukee. He said that one time in a press conference, then he came back and said, well, no, I didn't mean it like that. I still just want to be competitive. But we knew the writing on the wall that the time was up. And I think Giannis struggled with wanting to be the villain and also wanting to be the victim. And I think he just needed to be more clear about what he wanted, which is you do want to leave and you do want to win, and you're not going to win in Milwaukee anymore. You gave them a championship. You have fulfilled your obligations. It is okay for you to move on. That is sports. We are finally at the time where it looks like Giannis will be getting traded. There are two teams, the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. There are two trade offers that both teams have presented, and this has been going on for quite some time. So this is not a last-minute type of situation that they are dealing with. The Milwaukee Bucks were already fielding trades when it was the trade deadline during the season, so they understood what was out there for the market of Giannis. They have two different paths, though, that they can take in these trades. If you go the Miami Heat way, Pat Riley has already stated that he's not going to gut his team just to get Giannis. Bam Adebayo is not on the table, and that maybe other pieces would be, but he wasn't going to lose his entire roster just to acquire Giannis. He would give more trade capital and more money and picks. And for the Boston Celtics, they have made it clear that they are willing to include Jaylen Brown in their trade offer. So if you are the Bucks, those are two different options here. One option for the Heat is more of a rebuild. You're going to have to flip a lot of these picks. You're going to be able to have to use this and be okay with rebuilding this team. Or you go the route that you were already getting another star that can come in and immediately have impact. I do believe the Bucks are going to go with the Celtics offer, personally. The reason I feel that the Bucks are going to go with the Celtics offer is just that It's more bang for your buck if you ask me. You would rather want to trade star for star, even if they are on different calibers. I look at the Cleveland Browns, and everyone was so appalled when Myles Garrett got traded. But the one thing that the Browns got in return is that they got another impact player in Jared Verse. Now, do I believe they could have got more picks? Yes. But at the time, they felt like that compensated for the fact that they didn't get an extra pick or two because you are getting another really high caliber player. I see the same thing for the Bucks. The Miami Heat offered to me personally, unless the Miami Heat are about to offer more players, and maybe that's a Tyler Hero. But if you're not getting an immediate player like a Bam Adebayo that it looks like that's who they wanted in the trade, I feel like you have to go with the Celtics offer. The Celtics understand that they can't have losing seasons and they can't have losing playoffs. Yes, Jaylen Brown carried the load for them during the season. Jason Tatum comes back in the playoffs, and then they lose in the first round. Those are things that for the Boston Celtics, you have to look at and address because you can't really be stagnant in the NBA, and they understand that. You get Giannis, it immediately puts you right back where you want to be. He's going to be able to play around a lot of shooters, which he is at his best when he has that, and they're going to be able to spread the floor and have really a lot of dominance in the paint, something that they didn't have really this season and really in the playoffs. I don't think this is a knock to Jaylen Brown. I think Jaylen Brown has been wanting to be the guy on another team. I talked about this about a few months ago when the Celtics lost, is that I felt like this was going to run its course with him and Jason Tatum, and I think everyone kind of knew that. It is hard for a 1A and a 1B to really coincide because really deep down inside, someone has to admit that there are two, and I don't think Jason Tatum wanted to admit that, and I don't think Jaylen Brown wanted to admit that. Jaylen Brown went through this entire season, a season that everyone thought was going to be a bust, and he was able to carry them top in the East and get them to the playoffs. Jason Tatum comes back and things just don't really go how they thought it would in the playoffs, and then you lose against the Philadelphia 76ers. So I think for both of these parties, it's been time to split this thing up. I don't think there's hard feelings. I don't think there's animosity, but there's a desire that they have two different paths that they want. Jaylen Brown, I think, desperately wants to be able to lead his own team, to be the guy, and I believe he can do that with Milwaukee, and I think it makes sense for them. Now, I will be shocked if the Bucks take the Heat offer, unless more are going to be in the offer, but I think the Celtics, they have been trying to get this deal done for quite some time. They were one of the teams during the trade deadline, and it looks like they're okay. They're willing to part ways with Jaylen Brown and be able to build with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and you can't blame them for that. So we're going to monitor that. He should either be traded by the time you're listening to this episode or at least by tomorrow during the draft. And since we're talking about the draft, let's talk about the number 1 overall pick. The NBA draft is tomorrow. We're going to have new rookies on new teams, and everybody is talking about the number 1 overall pick. Let me just say this now. This 2026 NBA draft class is going to be really special. They're going to be around for a really long time. They will be in conversations of that 96 draft, that 03 draft class, where we talk about that there was a load of talent on just display from them, especially how many freshmen we have in this draft class. The number 1 overall pick is most likely going to be AJ Dybantsa. I don't think the Wizards can really pass up on what they're going to get in a player like him, his size, his length, his ability to play make, which I think is very underrated. He's a willing passer. I think his defense is the one thing that he's going to have to up the intensity on, especially going into the NBA. And he's going to be able to switch on to 3s, 4s, and sometimes even 5s possibly. And I think that's one thing he's going to have to grow into. But one thing AJ's not going to struggle in is scoring in the NBA. The spacing is going to be a little bit more to his benefit, and he's going to be able to really get to his bag a little bit more. But I will say this too, the Wizards might surprise us all. Now, the Wizards are keeping their cards very close to their chest right now, and the conversation is between AJ Dybantsa and Darryn Peterson at number 1. Now, Darryn Peterson did not work out for any other team. He only worked out for the Wizards. He was asked about that, and he said that it was just a decision that they made, but that he is open and willing to play for any team. Whoever calls his name, he's going to be excited to play, and that they're going to get the best of him. When AJ Dybantsa was asked about working out and, hey, what teams have you liked working out for? He said he hadn't worked out for any of the teams. Not even the Wizards. He said that pretty much he went, saw the city, talked to the staff, kind of got to know everybody in the organization, but he didn't work out at all for any teams. He even went on to say that they've seen enough from me. They could turn on the tape of how I played to know what they need to see. So it looks like Darryn Peterson isn't the only one that wasn't doing workouts. AJ Dybantsa also was not. I do think the Wizards want AJ, and I think a big indication of that is that they just signed Trae Young after he just declined his player option last week in a new long-term deal with the Washington Wizards. A 4-year, approximate $212 million deal to stay with the Wizards with a player option in year 4. I don't think you make that deal if you're going to go draft another guard, that being Darryn Peterson. And I think that was the biggest indication that they are going to want AJ. And I think it's going to make a lot of sense. He wants to be number 1. He's talked about it a lot, that it's his goal. And I think it makes a lot of sense when you already have a very ball-dominant guard in Trae Young. I don't think you bring in a Darryn Peterson to share that. Now, the interesting thing is that the Utah Jazz are most likely going to select Darryn Peterson at 2, but that's a little bit of a conflict because Keontae George is on that roster, and that is their ball-dominant guard that they have. Now, I want to see how that's going to work with them also bringing Darryn Peterson into the fold, but Utah is quietly building something, so it's not as though that team doesn't have anything cooking, but the biggest thing is that you're getting another guard. I do believe Darryn Peterson is going to naturally slide into the 2 role. To me, he is a shooting guard. We didn't see a lot in Kansas of him being a primary ball handler at times as a true point guard, just because at times he played off the ball way more, but I think that is where he's going to thrive more in the NBA anyway. But it's going to be exciting to see. They say that they believe Cameron Boozer is going to go number 3 overall. Now, the person that I have been talking about the most is Caleb Wilson. I do believe he's going to the Chicago Bulls with the 4th overall pick. I believe that he is going to be one of those players that has probably the highest potential and ceiling, but just raw talent. But it's all there. If you look at his game from North Carolina, he has all the things. He has the mid-range. He has the ability to get to the basket. He's a freak athlete. He plays great defense. There's a lot of comparisons to him and Kevin Garnett, or even him and Pascal Siakam. I think Caleb Wilson is the most intriguing, but looking at the Bulls, that's your guy. You don't pass up at 4 if he is still on that board, unless somebody else surprises you and takes him before that. But lining him up in that duo of him and Matas Buzelas, that is going to be so much fun to see. The Bulls now have a new head coach in Tiago Splitter, who is known for player development. And I think what they're going to be able to do in the offensive system and the defensive system of adding Caleb Wilson is going to be a big plus. The biggest guard that I am excited to see out of, really, it's a few. I'm excited to see if the Clippers are going to pull the trigger and take Darius Acuff. That's going to be exciting. I want to see where Michael Brown Jr. goes. He didn't have a great Louisville season, but all the intangibles are there, and I think his game is going to translate really well to the NBA. I've talked about Kingston Flemings. I think he is one of the most underrated guards really in this draft class, even though he is going to be a lottery pick. I think he's going to be able to go to a team and really impact winning very early on, and is going to be able to handle the primary point guard role that he played in Houston. But I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, his ability to score, but also the defensive side of the ball that he brings a lot of impact on. There's a lot of guards in this draft class that if you are a team and doing your due diligence of scouting, you really can strike gold multiple times in this draft class. I think there's a lot of good players even in the second round that we're going to see have a lot of impact. But the one thing that I do believe that a lot of these teams are trying to figure out is not passing up on what you could get in a player. And I think what really is fueling that conversation is when you're looking at this playoffs that we saw with Dylan Harper, who went number 2 overall, and a lot of teams saying, oh, well, maybe there should have been more of a conversation that he should have been number 1. Or even when you sit there and you look at Jalen Brunson and even what is going on with him, you look and say, oh, well, maybe we could find our Jalen Brunson in this draft. Is Darius Acuff Jr. our Jalen Brunson? Will we find our other Dylan Harper? Who is that? So I think for a lot of these teams, there is a sense that they don't want to feel as though they are missing out on a gem, but this draft class has a lot of gems, a lot. And as long as they are scouting correctly, you're not going to miss out on a gem in this class, but you might have to take a big swing and be able to really look at these players and the systems that they played in and what you want your team to play in when you are drafting them. I don't believe in just drafting a player just to say you did it. See what it looks like with them fitting into what you already have and the moves that you're going to make. And do you see them being able to fit the system? You want them to be a perfect piece to the puzzle. And for some teams, they got that right in the last few years. But it's so much talent that you might overthink it. And I think for these teams, don't overthink it. The talent is there. Do they fit your system? And get ready to play some basketball with these young rookies, because I'm telling you right now, they're going to be special. They're going to be box office. We're going to be talking about them for a very, very long time. While we're talking about who's about to come into the league, there's already some players that are in the league in the W, and we got to talk about the Indiana Fever and the defensive problems that they are having. One of the biggest questions about the Indiana Fever has been about their defense and who is to blame. Is it a Stephanie White problem? Is the team overall really bad defensively? Or is Caitlin Clark the reason why they can't defend? And I think there's a lot of answers to it. Caitlin Clark is not a great defender. We're just going to be honest. Statistically, she is the number one player in the W that has been isolated in defense in those matchups 42 times or more at this point. Kelsey Mitchell just around the 17 to 20 mark. But it's a reason why you're in isolation situations, because the offense thinks you're a bad defender. And if you watch a lot of the tape, she's not a great defender. It's easy for really athletic guards to have straight line drives to the basket. It's easy for them to put her in very compromising positions. The Fever try to switch everything out on the perimeter, and it just doesn't work. I don't think it's because of the fouls and, they're trying to get her tired. It's basketball. You have to play offense. You have to play defense. That's what it is. She is a professional. So I don't think a team is like, yeah, let's put her in isolation situations to get her tired. They want to put her in isolation situations because she can't guard. It's just that simple. That's nothing new. That happens in the NBA. We saw it with Jalen Brunson. We saw it with James Harden. I mean, we saw it with Steph Curry at once in his career. He's a more capable defender now. Physically, he's stronger and just has the ability to actually be out on an island a little bit more and hold his own. But in the beginning of his career and even at the peak of them winning, he wasn't really great in isolation situations. We saw what happened in the 2016 NBA Finals, and Kyrie Irving kept putting him in isolation situations, and Kyrie was winning that matchup. It is because he wasn't a great defender. The same thing is true about Caitlin. And I don't think that's the only problem with the defense. I don't think she's the reason why. I don't think they have the personnel to play good defense. Now, I know someone's listening to this and going to say, but if they can't play defense, why are they top 5 in defensive rating? I don't care about that. I'm just going to be honest with you. Those numbers, I know what I'm watching with them in the last few games. They can't defend. They're not a good defensive team. That rating, I don't know what the systems are for that. They're not a good defensive team. I saw them against the Atlanta Dream, back-to-back games, not able to get stops. Went almost 5 minutes with not being able to get a stop. They have multiple bad defenders. Let me also be very fair. It's not just that Caitlin can't defend. They have multiple bad defenders. The only good defender is Aaliyah Boston. And she's being tasked with doing so much that is why you are now seeing her get into foul trouble because of that. They just have no problem letting guards get to the basket. There's no paint presence. There's no perimeter defense at all. They just don't have the personnel for it. Now, there is some of that is on Stephanie White. And I know everyone wants to say Stephanie White's a bad coach, but this is also a coach known for her defensive strategies. Even her coordinators and assistants are known for defensive strategies, and they have the accolades to back that up. I don't believe that they have the personnel to play the defense that they want to play. Now, that is on the coach to figure out certain rotations and things that work where you can still maximize your offense and also have a capable defense. They haven't figured that out yet. I think the only answer is that you might have to play Raven Johnson more. And I know some people are going to say, but that doesn't work out because when she has played, this happened and this, that. I'm telling you right now, the only way is if you're going to front load your perimeter defense to have more on-ball pressure that somehow hides Caitlin. But the thing is, you can't hide her on defense in the W. They've tried it. It doesn't work, especially because they play a lot of man. You could go zone, but you can't really play a whole game in zone either, right? There are a lot of things the Fever are going to have to do. I think they're going to have to just really try to experiment with what it looks like with a unit that you know can get you consistent stops. It's no different than the Warriors when they they started the death lineup, and they even had Steph out there. But the reason it worked is because they surrounded him with really great defenders, 4 other versatile defenders that were able to guard 1 through 5. So even if he was out on an island by himself, he had enough help and enough cushion that he knew that there was some type of help coming either from Andre Iguodala, it was coming from Klay Thompson, it was coming from Dre, or it was coming from Harrison Barnes. He was never out there on his own because there were 4 other great defenders. That cannot be said about the Fever right now. They do not have 4 other great defenders out there. They got 1 great defender in Aaliyah Boston, and she can't really stay on the floor because she's getting into so much foul trouble. Other than that, there's no other elite defenders perimeter-wise that are out there to even force the issue. So you can't even hide Caitlin, because even if you hide her, you got to try to hide Kelsey Mitchell. You got to try to hide Sophie Cunningham. You got to try to hide Lexi Holt. You got to try to hide a lot of people here. They don't have the personnel for it. And the only way the Fever are going to be able to maximize offensively what works for them is having a capable defense. I'm going to keep using the Warriors example because that def lineup not only was a good defensive team, but offensively they were really great. But it was a small ball lineup with the really great defenders. And I don't know if the Fever can replicate that, but they need to figure out what their def lineup looks like. And is it something that you could throw out for 2 to 3 minute spurts that either can dig you out of a hole, maintain a lead, but also get you stops? And the Fever do not have that right now. And I'm just going to be honest, I don't think they're going to have it. I think this is something that they're going to have to go back to in the offseason to get the right personnel needed. And that is getting a 3 and a 4 that can guard out on the perimeter, but also give some help to Aaliyah Boston. And I think they had the opportunity to do that this offseason, but they spent the money differently for different players that are out there right now. But they could turn it around. I'm not going to count them out. We've seen teams do it. We've seen teams have a complete 180 at the beginning of the season to the end of the season. They might actually end up being a team that we see as a real defensive threat. But as of right now, I don't see it. And I don't believe that they're going to be able to turn around because defense is a want to. And what we're seeing from them is not a want to collectively. It's not just one person. Collectively, there's no want to. They look confused. The scheme doesn't work. Their transition defense is horrible. Nobody's stopping the ball. They're just letting everyone blow past them. There's just no connectivity or chemistry or communication on defense for them. And that's something that they're going to have to work out because there are a lot of great defensive teams in the W that are able to get stops. They're able to get kills. They're able to force turnovers, and they're also able to have a high-flying offense that can get out and run as well. And the Fever have to be able to match that, especially if they feel like they have real championship aspirations. But if you don't have a defense, you're not winning a championship. Scoring points is great, but defense still matters in the W. We have a few updates going on in the sports world in multiple sports. Number 1, college football. Brendan Sorsby will be entering the supplemental NFL draft. This is the same Brendan Sorsby that was the transfer quarterback for Texas Tech that we talked about a couple weeks ago that had admitted to sports gambling while he was a member of the Indiana Hoosiers and a member of Cincinnati. And he was still gambling when he transferred to Texas Tech. He entered a facility and that he was then admitted saying that he had a gambling addiction and mental illness. Now, he did end up getting denied from the NCAA to be reinstated, so he went to a local judge. The local judge gives him a temporary restraining order. He gets to play for the 2026 college football season. Well, the Big 12 team say, no. You might have stopped the NCAA, but you're not going to stop us. We're not going to schedule you then because we can't have that in our sport. It goes into a back and forth. Texas Tech says that they can sit there and sue. And then the Big 12 starts saying, well, no, actually, we have all the power if teams don't want to schedule you. And that pretty much forced Texas Tech's hand to end up releasing Brendan Sorsby and allowing him to enter the supplemental draft. If you're wondering what the supplemental draft is, it's pretty much a side draft, and teams can put a bidding offer as a pick. Now, say a team puts up a second round pick to get Brendan Sorsby in this supplemental draft. That means that they then forfeit that same corresponding pick in next year's draft. And the biggest question a lot of teams have had is that, is it really worth the hassle of getting a player that is dealing with a gambling addiction where NFL has very strict no gambling policy, and we have seen multiple players in the NFL have consequences for that, specifically Calvin Ridley. So I don't know if teams are willing to take the gamble, and some teams just aren't really in the market for a quarterback, but we are going to see. A date has not been set for that supplemental draft, but some teams might be interested. But now Texas Tech does need to figure out what they are going to do for their quarterback this season. They did say that they are going to go ahead and pay Brendan Sorsby the money that he had already been paid, which was around a $6 million NIL deal. So it looks like they will honor their commitment. Into another sport, we got tennis. Serena Williams is back. She went on to play doubles, and everyone said, I wonder if that means she's going to come back. She is. She will be playing in Wimbledon. Yes, Serena is going to be playing in Wimbledon in singles, and she's also going to be playing doubles with Venus. So for everyone who sat there and has been saying for a really long time that she was going to come back, my mom is one of the people that she has said over and over and over that she didn't think that Serena was fully done, that she was going to come back and play. I have to admit to you guys, my mom was right, and she is coming back to play. Wimbledon is going to be must-see TV. Who isn't going to want to see Serena playing singles, but who also isn't going to want to see Venus and Serena together again playing doubles in Wimbledon? Come on, like, it doesn't get any better than that. And especially a World Cup shout out. If you have not been watching the World Cup, if you don't understand what's going on, listen, keep watching the World Cup. This is one of the best times in sports. Team USA, with winning their group. We saw a phenomenal showing on Juneteenth from Alex Freeman, sitting there and scoring a goal. This Team USA has a lot of energy. They have a lot of zip to them, a lot of attack. And a lot of times as we're talking about World Cup teams, especially in Team USA history, we haven't really had teams that attack so offensively like they do. And I think it's a big credit to what they've been able to build. A lot of times we're talking about Team USA for soccer on the women's side and how phenomenal they are. But now the men's side is definitely catching up, and they're trying to give this World Cup a run for its money. So that is something to keep monitoring. Make sure you keep watching Team USA in the World Cup. Just make sure you're watching the World Cup, period, okay? It is a great time for sports. Even if you don't understand soccer, it's a great time to learn. You're going to get to know a lot of players. The World Cup stage is one of the biggest, and especially how everyone has been tuned in. I was eating out during the match during Juneteenth, and everyone had their phones out watching what was going on for Team USA. So make sure you support. Make sure you get you a little soccer jersey and put it on, because the World Cup is still going on, and we're about to be advancing to the knockout rounds really soon. Thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of the Lachelle Show. You know how much gratitude I have for every single listener. If you're listening in the car, on your way home from work, on your way to work, during your workout, or you're cleaning the house, I appreciate you all. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you share it with a friend, and tell a friend to tell a friend that the Lachelle Show is live every single week. New episodes every single Monday. We did not have a hotline this week, but make sure to call speakpipe.com/the Lachelle Show. Leave me a voicemail, because I love hearing from you guys. It could be your opinion, your hot take, a question, whatever it is that either I've discussed on the show, or maybe it's something you've been seeing that you want me to discuss, but make sure to leave me a voicemail. Remember, speakpipe.com/the Lachelle Show. You can also find the link in all of my social platforms in my bio. Thank you guys for listening to another week of the Lachelle Show, and you'll be hearing from me next week.